Discover the incredible heartwarming moment a homeless man's last aid inspires 300 bikers to unite. Jack stood at the corner of 5th and Elm, a once proud soldier now dressed in tattered clothes, clutching a single crumpled dollar bill alongside 7 more. The cold wind swirled around him, but it was nothing compared to the chill in the eyes of passers-by. Yet, against the backdrop of judgmental murmurs, Jack's resilient spirit radiated warmth. He had learned long ago that even in darkness, kindness could light the way. Every day, Jack met other souls like him, lost and vulnerable. He often shared his last crumbs of food or the thin blankets he could scrounge. Each act of generosity made his heart swell. This day, however, was different. A vibrant flyer fluttered past him, announcing an upcoming motorcycle rally, a beacon of hope meant to raise funds for veterans. Suddenly, Jack felt a flicker of possibility. Should he give his last $8? Could it help someone like him? His stomach growled, reminding him a warm meal was a fleeting option. But he closed his eyes and imagined how many veterans might benefit from that money. With newfound determination, Jack shoved his dollar bills into an envelope marked "Support our vets at the rally booth, a true sacrifice for the sake of others." News of Jack's small yet profound act spread like wildfire among the local biker community. Rough and tumble, their leather-clad exterior belied the softness of the hearts beneath. They rallied not just for veterans, but for Jack himself. One story of dignity scorched into their minds, igniting a passion to uplift one of their own, no matter how precarious his situation was. As plans grew, tension simmered. Misunderstandings about who deserved help divided the bikers. They debated fiercely who was worthy. Jack's donation turned into a battleground of pride, loyalty, and assumptions. Some riders felt others should be prioritized over Jack. Heated debates unfolded, their initial unity shattered by competing ideals. Just before the rally, Jack stood before the bikers, vulnerability pure in his eyes. "I lost my way, but I haven't lost hope," he said, his voice quaking. "I fought for my country, and now I'm just fighting for a meal, but I want to fight for all of us." His words wrapped around their hearts, prompting a wave of empathy and emotion. They saw that his life was shaped by battles they'd never known. Could they embrace their differences and unite? Would pride stop them, or would his story kindle understanding that transcended the lines they had drawn? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The bikers' hearts began to meld as they confronted their feelings. Could they find strength through Jack's story? Each rider stood at a crossroads, able to choose judgment or embrace the humanity that connected them all. As curiosity and compassion bubbled within them, Jack had opened a door. Would they step through it, or would they let it close, forever sealed by misunderstanding? The air was thick with anticipation, and the answer lay just beyond their next choice. The crowd shifted restlessly, the rumble of motorcycles growing louder as the bikers prepared for the rally. Each machine vibrated with unyielding power, but it was Jack's quiet strength that resonated louder than any engine. As he stood there, the towering figures around him, tattooed and leather-clad, bore down with eyes that were more curious than unkind. "Maybe this isn't just about Jack anymore," whispered Ray, a veteran who wore a patch honoring fallen brothers. He felt a pang of guilt churning in his stomach. He had frowned at Jack before, seen him as a reminder of his own struggles, but now he saw a man with courage. "It's about the fight we all have." Several other bikers nodded, their hardened expressions softening. Each had their own story of battles faced, of losses that made them more resilient. They realized, just like Jack, they were grappling with their own demons, carving out their lives on forgotten streets. Maybe this shared struggle was worth recognizing. As the sun began to dip low in the sky, hues of vibrant orange and pink painted the backdrop, creating an almost surreal scene. Jack's heart raced. In that moment, he stood not just as a man without a home, but as a thread weaving together lives that once seemed disparate. They were not just bikers or a broken soldier, they were a community made up of shared histories and hopes. "Listen up, everyone," shouted Lulu, the president of the biker club, her voice ringing clear. "Jack showed us what true sacrifice looks like. It's our turn to stand up for each other. We're riders and we fight for our own. Let us show Jack and every vet that we care." The words struck a chord, murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, some of the bikers stepped forward, breaking away from their previous divisions. They hugged Jack, one by one, big, warm embraces that wrapped around him like a shield. Tears glistened in Jack's eyes as he felt the weight of acceptance and brotherhood. For the first time in a while, he felt seen. As banners fluttered and the sound of revving engines filled the air, conversations began to spring up. Riders from different backgrounds mingled, sharing their stories and struggles. The camaraderie grew. This was not only a rally for veterans, it was a rally for Jack. A movement born from an act of kindness rippling outwards, igniting passion and solidarity, but it wasn't all easy. In the corners, debates still sparked over who deserved the donations the most. Some bikers grumbled about supporting someone they felt lacked accountability or had fallen too far. Jack overheard snippets of these conversations, and though they stung, he steeled himself. He understood the doubt, he felt it too. As the sun finally set, casting shadows across the gathering, Jack took a deep breath. He was on the brink of something bigger. He felt the shift in the air, the change in hearts. "We all deserve a chance to rise," he said firmly, rallying attention again. "Let us give each other that chance." But before he could finish, a loud roar of engines interrupted. The first wave of bikers revved their motorcycles, ready to make their statement. Would they come together for the cause, or could the internal divisions still drive them apart? That question hung in the air like the smell of exhaust, tantalizing and fraught with potential. As they rolled out of the lot, it became clear, this was only the beginning. What awaited Jack and the bikers could change everything. Would they join forces for a greater mission, or would their struggles still keep them apart? The journey had just begun. The roar of engines filled the night, a deafening symphony of freedom. Jack felt the vibrations rattle his bones. The bikers began to pull away, their machines gliding into the night like shadows escaping from the past. He took a step forward, wanting nothing more than to merge into the wave of camaraderie rolling through the crowd, but a tension knotted his stomach. Would they truly come together, or would fear and doubt hold them back? As they joined the rally, headlights cutting through the darkness, Jack caught glimpses of determination on each biker's face. They were not just riders, they were warriors. With every mile, his heart swelled with pride. They were united in purpose now, pushing down their doubts for a greater cause. Yet, the unspoken fears lingered like smoke in the air. Navigating the streets, they headed toward a local community center, a place that had once served as a refuge for veterans. Huddles of people gathered at the entrance, faces illuminated by makeshift torches. Jack's pulse quickened with a mix of excitement and anxiety. A crowd for him, a crowd for them. Once arrived, the roar of engines quieted, and the bikers dismounted with intentionality. Lulu stepped forward. "All right, everyone," she shouted, her voice a beacon in the dim light. "Tonight isn't just for us. It's for every person who has fought a battle and needs to know there's hope." Jack's throat tightened at her words. She was right. This was about every soul that had ever felt alone. Waves of realization washed over him. Maybe this was what he had been looking for, not just a revival of the past, but a chance to help build a brighter future. He stepped up beside her, heart pounding. "Let us show them what it means to believe," he cried out, feeling the unity spark like electricity. "Together, we can rise." Encouragement erupted from the crowd, fists raised in solidarity. As they began setting up donations, every biker pitched in. Baskets filled with clothes, food, and money started piling up at the front. It was a cascading wave of generosity, a testament to what they could achieve as one. But underneath the surface, undercurrents of discontent still brewed. Jack spotted a group whispering, casting glances in his direction, their arms crossed tightly over their chests. Tension hung heavy. He wondered if this was worth it, if he was worth it. They had their own battles to fight. Just as the donations were being counted, Jack stepped toward the murmuring bikers. A cyclone of emotions stirred inside him: hope, fear, gratitude. This was his moment to prove that he was not just a burden, but a brother in arms. "Listen," he began, his voice steady yet vulnerable. "I've been where you are. I've felt the weight of shame and despair. But together, we can change that. We can change each other." The murmurs softened. An older biker, his face lined with worry, stepped forward. "But what if you don't hold it together? What if you're just wasting our time?" Jack's breath caught. He understood the doubt, and a raw truth erupted from deep within. "I might falter, but that doesn't mean I'm not trying. We all have the power to help one another to rise." A silence fell, but it was different this time, charged, alive. Jack wasn't just standing alone. He had brought something real, a spark of hope that linked him to every soul around. Yet, as the night grew darker, a sudden rumble sounded, a storm brewing on the horizon, both in the sky and within their hearts. Would they let that fear break them or bind them stronger? The first drops of rain began to fall, each drop heavy with potential. Jack glanced up as lightning lit the sky, illuminating the faces of his fellow bikers. This storm could either drive them apart, or it could be the force that fortified their bond. The question pulsed in the air like a heartbeat: would they embrace the storm together? The wind picked up, howling through the trees as the storm threatened to unleash. Jack looked at the crowd, his heart pounding with both fear and excitement. Drops of rain began to splatter against the ground, but he could feel a change in the air, something electric, something alive. Lulu raised her voice against the wind. "We're not going to let a little rain stop us. If anything, let it remind us that we're here together." A cheer erupted from the crowd, drowned out momentarily by a crack of thunder. Jack felt a rush of courage. This wasn't just about him anymore, this was about everyone. They were all fighting the same battle against the elements, each other's doubts, and the shadows lurking in their minds. As rain pounded down, people began to gather closer together, huddling for warmth and support. Jack's spirit soared. He realized this was the raw power of community, the strength that only came when hearts opened up to one another, united in purpose. "What do we do now?" someone shouted, wiping rain from their face. It was a biker with a wild beard and a face etched by years of riding. His question hung in the air, stirring an inner urge within Jack. "Let us give them something to remember," Jack called, feeling the weight of every gaze on him. "Let us show them that love is stronger than any storm. We have food, clothes, but what about our stories?" Lulu stepped forward, eyes shining. "Yes. Let us share not just what we're giving, but also why we're here. Let us tell them why this matters." As the crowd agreed, Jack could feel a shift. He knew the fear of vulnerability, yet here he was, stepping into a moment that could transform them all. Voices began to rise, snippets of stories weaving into the night. Each biker shared a piece of their journey, the battles fought, the victories won, the defeats that shaped them into who they were. Jack listened, spellbound, as tales of redemption and strength washed over him like the rain drenching their clothes. A young woman spoke about her struggles with addiction, her voice cracking with raw emotion, while an elderly man recounted memories of friends he lost in the war, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. His heart swelled with an overwhelming sense of connection. Each voice painted the reality of pain but also the resilience to rise above. Jack couldn't help but interject. "And what if our stories are the very bridges that lead us all to healing?" The crowd roared with approval, energy building like a flame fed by the wind. Jack could see the doubters softening, their arms unraveling, and smiles creeping onto faces that had once held only shadows. Then, it was his turn. He took a deep breath, bracing against the wind. "I come from a place where it felt dark. I wasn't just lost, I was drowning. But thanks to people like you I've learned to fight back." His voice trembled, the rain mixing with something sharp and real. "Together, we build the way to recovery. Together, we teach each other how to rise." As he finished, the storm began to calm, rain easing into a gentle mist. In that moment of calm, illuminated by flickering torches and shared humanity. Jack felt the weight of hope settle amongst them, a sense that they could indeed weather any storm. But then, just as the crowd began to disperse, a figure appeared at the edge, cloaked in shadow. Jack squinted through the mist, the figure pushing through the lingering crowd. What did they want? Was this just another reminder of the battles they all faced? The tension froze the moment. All eyes were drawn to the newcomer as they stepped closer, revealing a familiar face twisted in sorrow, holding something tightly in their hands. Jack's heart sank. What were they about to reveal? The raindrops fell in a soft rhythm now, almost like a whisper, as the figure emerged from the haze. Jack's heart raced. The face belonged to a man named Tom, someone he'd known from the streets. Tom had a reputation for his warmth and his never-ending hope, despite life handing him a heavy dose of struggle. But tonight, his eyes were clouded and filled with an unmistakable sorrow that sent icy fingers down Jack's spine. The crowd hushed, a collective breath caught in their throats as Tom stumbled forward, his hands trembling. He opened them slowly, revealing a crumpled bill clutched tightly, a single, wrinkled $8 note. Please everyone. His voice cracked. I wanted to give this to someone who might need it more than me. As he spoke, his gaze flicked out into the crowd, searching. I thought maybe this could go toward food or blankets. Jack felt a rush of mixed emotions. Part admiration, part heartbreak. Here was Tom, a man who had next to nothing, offering his last remaining cash as a lifeline for another. It struck Jack deep, a profound reminder of the power of love and community. Lulu stepped forward, her eyes wide. You're incredible, Tom. This is what we're talking about. It's not about the amount, it's about the heart. That spirit we're sharing together. A wave of emotion rippled through the crowd, igniting their spirits once more. Jack felt a fire rekindle among the people, their faces lighting up with newfound resolve. Tom wasn't just giving away money, he was shining a light on the unity they all craved, the connection. Jack took a step closer to Tom. You're showing us what giving truly means, my friend. And we've all got a little something to contribute. He raised his voice, rallying everyone again. Who here has a little extra to spare for someone in need? Hands began to rise, pockets being rifled through. Dollar bills emerged, coins jingled, a chorus of generosity unfolding before them. The vibe shifted, filled now with determination, with hearts ready to respond. If Tom could do it, they could too. One by one, people stepped forward, adding their contributions to a growing pile. The $8 turned into $100, the laughter broke through the heaviness in the air. Together they were rising to the occasion, proving Tom's act wasn't a drop in the ocean, but rather a tidal wave of compassion that would carry everyone onward. But as Jack looked at Tom, a thought struck him. Underneath the joy, a sadness twinkled in his eyes. Tom, are you all right? He asked, voice lowered, the din around them fading into the background. Tom's expression darkened momentarily, brushing the corners of his mouth into a faint semblance of a smile. For me, it's harder some days. But I've learned that sometimes, giving is what keeps you alive. I had to share this. Jack nodded, feeling the weight of Tom's truth. So much was hidden in those words. The storm inside him flickered, seeing how the act of giving rekindled light, even for those lost in darkness. As the last notes were gathered, a new resolve pulsed through the crowd. They formed a circle, hands joined, souls intertwined. Together, they would rise above, not just as bikers but as a family bound by shared experiences. And then, just as Jack felt a sense of triumph swell, a chilling wind swept through. The moment of unity was pierced by a blaring siren in the distance. All eyes shifted, concern etched across their faces. What was coming now, to test their newfound bond? The anticipation hung heavy in the air as Jack turned back to Tom, who was now looking worried. What new challenges awaited them? Would the connections they just forged be strong enough to face what was on the horizon? The siren's wail grew closer, reverberating in Jack's chest like the impending beat of a storm. The crowd, once buzzing with warmth and fellowship, now felt like a gathering of dry leaves rustling, uncertain, waiting for the gust that would send them scattering. Jack's heart raced as he scanned the faces around him, those who had just moments ago united in hope, now taken by fear, Tom's worry was palpable, as if it seeped into the very air they breathed. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper, tremors betraying his usual courage. Jack felt that same tremor in his own hands, the bond they had just formed hung by a fragile thread. "We don't let them divide us," Jack said, though he couldn't shake the doubt creeping into his mind. "Whatever's coming, we face it together." The words sounded stronger than he felt. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting toward the direction of the sirens. It wasn't just one either, more followed, a parade of anxious uncertainty. Tension coiled in Jack's stomach as he stepped back, feeling the rush of adrenaline push him forward. He needed to keep spirits high, there was no other way. "Listen," Jack called out, his voice cutting through the growing hum of anxiety. "This is what we stood here for. Tom reminded us that giving brings us together. Let us not allow fear to tear us apart. No matter what happens next, we're family now." Lulu, picking up Jack's cue, stepped beside him. "That's right. We're not just a bunch of strangers anymore. We're a community. No sirens can break what we've built tonight." A few nods, hesitant but there. A few voices rose in agreement, slightly shaky but growing louder. They were getting back their energy, and Jack could feel a flicker of hope igniting once more. But in a heartbeat, the sirens stopped, replaced by a cacophony of voices that erupted from beyond the edge of the park. "Hey! Everyone! Back away!" shouted a uniformed officer, drawing near as his flashlight sliced through the darkness, illuminating their circle of unity. That voice sent a jolt through Jack, a mix of dread and defiance swirling around him. "They want us to back down," he murmured. He had seen too much to let this challenge slip away without a fight. Jack stepped up, locking eyes with the officer, who now seemed just as surprised as he was firm. "We're not going anywhere," he replied, defiance rising in his chest. "You can't break us apart just because you don't understand." Tom, flanking Jack's side, cleared his throat. "You don't know us," he added, his voice stronger now, his warmth tempered with determination. "We are more than what you see. We matter." The officer looked between them, uncertainty flashing across his face. He didn't expect a challenge, not here, not tonight. But what would he do next? Would he see them for who they truly were or push them aside as mere nuisances to be cleared away? The crowd leaned in, gathered around Jack and Tom, a living wall of solidarity. Jack's heart hammered, not just from fear but from assurance that they stood together. The bond of humanity he felt was palpable, like an electric current surging through them. Then, without warning, the officer reached for his radio, and Jack held his breath, each second stretching like an eternity. Would he call for backup? Or would he recognize the beating heart of change standing right before him? As they all waited, the gravity of the moment pressed in on Jack. Would this be the test that pulled them apart or the one that forged them into something stronger? The radio crackled to life, and each people's heart seemed to skip a beat as they awaited the officer's response. Jack could see the muscles in the officer's jaw tighten. He was caught between duty and something deeper, the unspoken connection with the crowd. It was as if the cool night air held its breath along with them. "Just keep calm," the officer finally said into the radio, his voice steadying. "I'll handle this." He turned his head slightly, searching the faces in the crowd, his eyes landing on Jack and Tom. "Look," he said, trying to soften the edge in his voice, "we're not here to cause trouble. We're just doing our job." There was a flicker of empathy there, beneath the uniform, the badge, the rules he had to follow. Tom stepped forward slightly, his brow furrowed. "Doing your job shouldn't mean tearing apart what we've built here tonight. We're standing for something together. Can't you see that?" His words struck a chord, and the crowd began to murmur in agreement. Jack felt their energy shift, a swell of unity challenging the very system meant to separate them. "That's all we want," Jack said, his voice a bit louder now, emboldened by Tom's courage. "Just a chance to be seen, to be heard. We're not asking for much, only a moment to stand in solidarity." The officer hesitated, and for a split second, Jack thought he saw a flicker of understanding pass through his eyes. The flashlight in his hand shook slightly, but he quickly steadied himself. "You don't understand the situation," he began, but Jack could see the doubt beginning to creep into his conviction. "Maybe you don't understand us," Jack countered, desperation peppering his voice. "We've faced too much alone. The sirens echo our fear, but they can't silence our voices." With each word, the crowd around him pressed closer, pulses racing, hands gripping one another in determination. There were whispers now, stories shared amongst them. They weren't strangers tossed into a storm, they were a tapestry of lives woven together by shared hope. The officer looked at them, really looked. Jack held his breath, waiting for the moment to resolve. The air was thick with anticipation, like a balloon on the verge of bursting. "Okay," the officer finally said, his tone softer now. "Maybe we can talk. But you'll need to stay calm." There was a shift in his posture, a treaty forged in the fraying lines of authority. Cheers erupted, faint at first, then louder. Jack felt something crack within him, a dam of hope breaking free. He looked around, catching Tom's eye, the grin spreading across his face mirroring the joy igniting in Jack's heart. But just as the relief settled, a low rumble echoed from down the street. The roar of motorcycles approached, growing louder, punctuating the moment with growing reality. Jack turned to see a line of bikers, leather jackets gleaming under the streetlights, forming a parade crafted from the storm of rebellion. Where they would lead, Jack didn't know. But as he saw their determined faces, he felt a stirring excitement. What did this mean? Would they join their cause or shift the tide against them? The officer's expression changed again, eyes widening as the bikers cut through the tension like a knife. The crowd around Jack surged forward, hearts racing with the unknown as fear and hope mingled in the electric air. What was about to unfold? Would this community, still tender and raw, be bolstered by this unexpected show of strength, or would it unravel entirely, faced with the weight of new challenges? In that moment, the world felt poised on a knife's edge, and Jack held on to the fraying strings of both hope and fear, waiting to see which would lead the way. The roar of the motorcycles grew nearer, a thunderous blend of metal and thunderous hearts that sent adrenaline coursing through Jack and the crowd. Jack's gaze locked onto the bikers as they rolled in, their leather jackets billowing like banners of defiance. There were dozens of them, a tribe born from the asphalt and spirit. Their presence filled the street, but also brought unease. "What do you think they want?" Tom asked, his voice barely audible over the rumble. "I don't know," Jack replied, his throat dry. "But it feels like they're part of something bigger." The officer shifted uncomfortably, his authority challenged by this unexpected army of riders. He glanced between the bikers and the crowd, processing the scene unfolding before him. The bikers weren't just here for a joyride, they were here for a reason, maybe to join their fight or to stand as something even more formidable. As the last bike rolled to a stop, a tall figure mounted off one of them. He had a weathered face framed by long hair, and his worn denim vest told many stories without needing to say a word. He stepped forward, a confident stride that held a blend of kindness and gravity. "Listen up," he shouted, his voice booming across the gathering. "We heard you all the way down the road and wanted to see for ourselves." He paused, taking in the scene, the officer caught between duty and compassion, the tightly knit crowd of ordinary people willing to fight for something they believed in, and the palpable tension in the air. "Now," he continued, "we aren't here for a fight. We're here to listen. We fight for our freedom, and we believe in standing with those who fight for theirs." Jack felt a surge of energy ripple through the crowd. This wasn't just a biker looking to stir up trouble. This was a call, a rallying cry that transcended layers of authority and division. "What do you want us to do?" Jack called out, the words spilling from his mouth without hesitation. The biker smiled, a genuine curve of the lips that lit up his face like the first rays of dawn. "Let us ride with you. Share your stories. Show us the power of your unity." A ripple of excitement spread through the crowd. Jack's heart raced, a feeling of hope infusing every pore. They weren't alone anymore. This could change everything. Voices rose, merging into a fluttering symphony of inspiration and purpose, echoing messages of resilience and determination. The officer took a step back, the lines of his uniform suddenly feeling tighter around him as a wave of solidarity washed over the crowd. You've got to respect the law as well, he warned, trying to regain some sense of control. Respect goes both ways. Another biker shouted, and the crowd roared back in agreement. It was a loud acknowledgement that they were all intertwined, bound by shared human experiences, struggles and successes, fears and triumphs. Just then, an elderly man with a nearby dog stepped forward, duplicity in his worn expression. I only have $8 to my name, he declared, pulling out a crumpled bill. But I'll give it all to stand with you. As he extended the bill forward, murmurs turned into gasps. Jack's heartbeat quickened at the sight, the impact of that small gesture sending ripples beyond the street corner. What could this mean? If a single dollar had the power to inspire unity, how could thousands make waves of change? The energy shifted intensely, the moment straddling a line between vulnerability and power that he had never witnessed before. Hope and despair collided in those seconds, as that single act of kindness felt monumental, like a spark igniting the fuel of their collective aspirations. Would they take that leap together? Would they harness this moment and drive it into a movement? As Jack watched the crowd rally around the elderly man's courage, something deep inside him began to transform. The bikers readied for action. The officer exhaled a breath he didn't realize he was holding, and Jack smiled, finally daring to believe. What happens when this unexpected alliance takes the road ahead? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered. The sun hung low, casting a warm glow over the vibrant gathering. The noise of excitement enveloped Jack as cheers erupted from the crowd around him. It felt electric, a solidarity swelling up like a tide, ready to sweep away all doubts. The elderly man's offering, small yet significant, struck a chord that resonated deeply within the hearts of everyone. Let us pass the hat. Someone yelled, breaking through the chant of unity. Those words sparked a frenzy as people dug into their pockets. Jack felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. This wasn't just about a few bucks, it was about hope, about standing shoulder to shoulder against an unseen force that had threatened their town for far too long. Tom and Jack moved through the crowd, gathering donations. The energy was contagious. One by one, strangers came forward, offering what they could, coins, dollars, and even a couple of old watches and jewelry, each donation accompanied by a smile or a story. A woman recounted how her family had lost everything to the recent changes in their community. Her voice trembled, but there was strength in her vulnerability. These bikers have seen it all, she said, her eyes shining brightly. They know our struggle. They stand with us. The crowd cheered, a chorus of voices lifting in unison. The bikers mingled, sharing tales from the open road of camaraderie, of hard-won battles, and of little victories that added up. It felt like a family gathering, bound not by blood but by shared experiences. The tall biker, who had initiated this unexpected alliance, approached Jack. What's your name, brother? He asked. Jack, he replied, taking a moment to meet the older man's gaze. Jack, this is powerful stuff happening here, he said, gesturing to the growing pile of contributions. You've got a fire in you. Hold on to that. We're ready to ride this out with you, side by side. The weight of those words settled on Jack's chest, filling him with a determination he never knew he had. It was an invitation to become more than just an observer in his own life. As the donations piled higher, Jack turned back to see the officer looking on, his expression torn between disbelief and admiration. Perhaps Jack had misjudged him. It was a moment that pushed the officer to rethink his position, to see that these weren't just bikers, but human beings joining a cause much larger than themselves. Thank you for sharing this with us, the officer finally spoke, stepping forward. You have every right to be heard. The crowd erupted in applause, a bridge being built where walls once stood. Let us take this momentum and ride, the biker suggested, raising his hand. In that moment, the crowd roared in agreement, chanting, Ride! Ride! Jack's heart raced as they formed a procession, eager to make a statement. The bikers climbed onto their powerful machines, the rumble of engines igniting the atmosphere with exhilaration. As he took his place beside them, Jack felt a purpose drive him like never before. What destiny awaited them on these roads ahead? The sun dipped lower, casting shadows that danced with every rev of an engine, and with it, a weight of uncertainty loomed. Were they truly prepared for what lay ahead, and could the strength of community sustain them through the trials to come? The roar of engines became a comforting lullaby as Jack cruised alongside the bikers. The warmth of acceptance swelled in his chest, igniting a burning determination within him. They were not just rumbling through the streets, they were weaving a tapestry of hope and change, one ride at a time. United under the night sky, Jack felt the weight of their stories intertwine, fueling him with the strength to face whatever lay ahead. As they made their way toward the community center, headlights illuminated the darkened streets, casting shadows that flickered like memories in the night. The sirens had faded into the background, replaced by laughter, camaraderie, and the vibrations of powerful machines. Jack glanced back at the growing line of motorcycles behind him. Each biker was a testament to resilience, embodying the fight for dignity, for one another. Arriving at the community center, they parked their bikes and poured into the building like a wave of solidarity. Inside, the atmosphere transformed, tables laden with donations, faces lit up with anticipation. Jack looked around, taking it all in. This was it. This was the moment they were meant to embrace together. "Let us show everyone what we can do," Lulu called, igniting the crowd's energy. They began sorting through the donations, selecting clothes, blankets, and food to distribute to those in need, thousands of little ripples of kindness cascading through their community. Jack felt the spirit of unity burning brightly, transcending their struggles and differences. He spotted Tom, sitting on a nearby crate, looking overwhelmed yet elated. "Can you believe this?" Jack asked, crossing over to his friend. "No, man. This is unreal." Tom grinned, his eyes sparkling with joy. "We're all part of something bigger now." We sparked a fire. As the night wore on, stories flowed freely. Jack listened as others shared their trials and triumphs, battles with addiction, overcoming homelessness, deployments to conflicts near and far. Each voice carried an emotion that wound around them like a warm blanket. Jack marveled at the power of sharing experiences and the healing that came from vulnerability. Elation soared when Lulu climbed onto a makeshift stage. "Tonight isn't just about our pasts, but about our future," she shouted, and the crowd cheered in response. "We ride for each other. We stand for one another." The cheers turned into a chant, a rhythmic mantra pulsing through them all. Together. 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 It was a sound that echoed into the night. Jack stepped forward, feeling the electricity in the air. He raised his voice over the thrumming excitement. "The fight isn't just for us. It's for every person who feels lost. It's for those who doubt." The crowd roared, and Jack's heart soared. In that moment, he saw not just bikers but family, people striving for something more, fighting to keep that flame of hope alive. Jack felt at home, then, with all the bravery he could muster. Jack invited them to share their plans for the future. "Let us keep this going. Let us build a community of support for veterans, families in need, and anyone who feels forgotten." He yelled, the crowd erupting into applause. "Yes!" The crowd shouted back, their voices unwavering. The cycle of giving had begun, one Jack had unknowingly ignited with his single act of kindness. What followed was nothing short of incredible. As the weeks rolled by, they established a local charity, a lifeline for veterans and those struggling in their community. Fundraisers turned into gatherings, a network of love blossomed across town, brushing aside the barriers once isolating them. Jack found purpose he never thought possible, recalling the spark ignited long ago when he had given up his last $8. On a particularly joyful Saturday, Jack, surrounded by his newfound family, stood at the front of the local charity fundraiser. The place was abuzz with positive energy. Everyone was there, bikers, community members, and those they had helped along the way. They shared laughs, stories, and even memories of struggle that only made their bonds stronger. Together, we've shown what community means. Jack exclaimed, grinning like the Cheshire Cat, catching everyone's attentiveness. The crowd erupted into support, hands lifted in solidarity. He could hardly see the tears forming in the eyes of fellow bikers, arms draped over one another's shoulders in a shared moment of pride. As the night came to an end, the laughter and music danced in the air, resonating hope and possibilities. Jack stepped outside, the cool breeze rushing over him. He gazed up at the stars shining brightly, an emblem of all lost souls finding their way back home. He finally realized sometimes, it's not about the struggles one endures but how gracefully they rise, together. "Hey!" Tom hollered, appearing beside him. "You ready for the next ride?" "Always," Jack replied, heart swelling as they walked back toward the exciting gathering still taking place inside. As they stepped back into that hum of life, Jack took a moment to reflect on the profound transformation they had achieved, from shadows of doubt to a roaring call for kindness and community. They had each chosen to change their lives and those around them in meaningful ways, united in a cause for the better. Now, as the warmth of brotherhood wrapped around him, Jack felt the sparks of hope satiate his soul. He had not only changed the lives of others, they, in turn, had changed his. A journey full of adventure lying ahead. Together, they could conquer anything. Together, they had found hope once lost, and Jack couldn't wait to see where this road would lead next. And it's not just Jack's story, friends. It's about all of us joining together, making the world a brighter place, one small act at a time. So, if you believe in the power of transformation and community, now is the time to act. You need to subscribe to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this powerful message. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can make a difference.